Welcome to the Eclectic Gamers Podcast. Today is Sunday, October 6th. It's episode 98. I am Tony.
And I'm Dennis, and we have something we haven't had in a long time. A long time.
A will to live?
Yes. And a guest.
Oh, okay.
And our guest is the world-famous Jason Knapp of Knapp Arcade, which we do have a link in the show notes if for some reason you are not following Knapp Arcade on Facebook. It's one man's journey to experience every arcade whilst his sons play the most East Coast bourgeois sport known, lacrosse. So, Jason, welcome again to the show, because you've been on before.
Greetings, gentlemen. That's a repeat guest. You have actually my exclusive arrangement for podcast guestdom. Is that a word, guestdom?
It's a Bruceism if there's, if not. So, Mr. Nightingale from the Slam Tilt podcast, fond of inventing new words. And so it's our intro time. So Jason, you can talk about whatever's going on, or if you want to promote what you do on Facebook. You have a lot. I mean, like tenfold the followers that we at Eclectic Gamers do on Facebook. So you're doing something right, or we're doing something wrong. I'm not quite sure.
Or both.
Why not both?
I don't know. I really probably should have planned something to say, but I can still wing it. I started an Instagram account. That's new. The Knapp Arcade Instagram account. It's not like the Facebook page where I share news and articles and stuff like that. It's just pictures, just straight up pictures of arcades that I've taken across the country. And we went out West Coast, and I did a lot Free Gold Watch and Ace Goji and stuff like that. And then I've done all up and down the East Coast. And coming up, a friend of mine and I are going to make the trip south. We're going to do Mom's Organic Market in Crabtown and a lot of the Maryland arcades. So I just picked up the new iPhone 11 Pro. So the pictures are looking good. If anybody wants to follow the Instagram account on there, it's Knapp Arcade, obviously, on Instagram. So, that's new.
Yeah, and I'm sure Apple's check for your sponsorship will be in the mail at any moment.
Oh, yeah. Can you make money off Instagram? I guess you can. People probably do.
You're an influencer now. You
Oh,
could be at TwitchCon, E3. They might invite you to Expo to be in Media Row. Did you get a Media Row invite?
Definitely not.
Oh, I'm going to talk to Ken Cromwell about that.
I don't fit into any sort of special guest invites for anything. I don't know. I get invited on your podcast once a year. That's about it.
You're a major and we're going to talk about one of the stories that at least I credit you for breaking in a little bit. But okay. Well, welcome back, Jason. Tony. Well, welcome back to my house, because that's where we're recording.
Yes,
what's going on?
I've not been here in 12 hours.
Yeah, we should try to get Jason to do the recording on Saturday night, but we didn't know how long we'd last in the tournament.
Yeah, we could have won that tournament.
We could have. It was close.
It was feasible. But what I've been doing, it's been, when you get that period of time where it's like 2 weeks, but it feels like what happened 2 weeks ago was like a month and a half ago. That's where I'm sitting right now.
Okay.
But because it feels like it's been a month since we recorded our last episode. Our last episode was I'm going to talk insanely here for a second.
It was 2 weeks and a day.
2 weeks and a day ago, because we did it on a Saturday because I was going to Chicago. And Chicago was great, but the only part that people here really care about is, yes, I made it to Logan Arcade. I did not make it to headquarters. I did not make it to Galloping Ghost. I didn't make it anywhere else. But Logan was pretty awesome. I spent a few hours there, played a lot of machines.
Did you put your initials on any of them?
I did put my initials on a machine in first place.
Champion Pub?
Burger Time.
Oh, Burger Time.
Burger Time.
You love Burger Time. Tony talks about Burger Time.
Burger Time is like my favorite old arcade.
A few times a year, yeah.
I have memories of playing that at Showbiz Pizza Place back in the day.
Showbiz.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was the place for birthdays around here. It's now, I believe, a Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, they were, Chuck E. Cheese bought them.
Did they buy them? I wasn't sure they bought them or just took over the building. Here.
No, the companies, were merged.
Did you know that the Showbiz was what, what's his name? Bushnell got to keep when he was out at Atari. He asked to get to keep from Warner. He wanted to keep Showbiz and they didn't want it. So they let him have it.
So he got to keep it.
He got to have it.
I think he actually founded Chuck E. Cheese, Nolan Bushnell. I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. I know I watched, I can't remember. There was a Defunct Land on Chuck E. Cheese.
I haven't seen that one yet. Okay.
Well, you got to see the animatronic band at Logan then.
In fact, I think there's a retro arcade bar here in the Kansas City area that has a bunch of those animatrons now.
I think they're trying to sell them, actually.
Yes, for too much money.
Those things go for way more money than normal people would spend on a robot band member.
Well, at least they try to go for that on eBay. We'll see. We'll see if they move.
And let's be honest, how many normal people will be wanting to purchase something like that anyway?
So mean.
I don't think I'd want just one, though. That's the thing. Like, I wouldn't want like the dude who plays the drums or something, and then you just have one band member in your house. Like, I would want all of them, and then it would take up so much space, you wouldn't be able to do it.
You'd have to get rid of your Chex bubble hockey.
Yeah.
I traded that a while ago. What did I trade that for? Big Guns, I think.
Oh, that's a fun game.
I think Big Guns is too tall to fit in my game room.
It was too tall. It was in my garage, so then I had to sell it because it was like too big.
Yep, it's too big.
You can't just
my Jurassic Park only barely is fitting against where the low overhang is, where I line all my pins up in there. So it's like there's no way Big Guns is going in there.
Yeah, no.
It's too bad.
Speaking of Jurassic Park, tell him to get me my Jurassic Park.
Oh, did you order one?
I have a premium coming.
From which distributor?
Oh, Flipping Out, of course.
Flipping Out Pinball. Okay, well, I will be following up with Zach then after this and saying, where is Jason's Jurassic Park? The media demands answers.
That's right. In the meantime, it's been so long, I got sucked into buying something else, and because I just couldn't resist. I was looking for a Game of Thrones Pro for forever locally, one that wasn't like, because you ever see them on Pinside, people like mod them out to like the gills and then try to charge more than new on box price for them.
Yeah.
So I found one locally had a color DMD shaker, all this stuff, and it was pretty significantly less than a new in box price. So I was like, how am I going to make this happen? Because I'm already waiting for another expensive pin. So I had to sell World Cup Soccer to make it happen.
Yeah, actually, I listed my Jurassic Park here and a couple other games in the Kansas City Facebook group to try and make some space. And I've been looking more aggressively for a Walking Dead that's not modded out that I can just get, and probably would be a pro because I'm a little probably too cheap for a premium. Quite frankly.
I don't think
you don't want the Walker bombs.
Walking Dead's one of those things where I don't think it matters that much.
I mean, mech wise, I don't think it's a huge deal, and you do get more convenient ramp shots, but the loss of the Walker bombs is frustrating from a gameplay perspective because they open up the ability for you to advance in the game so much because they're basically an ability to do an add a ball during multiple. But I've never really been good enough to get my Walker bombs ready, so I can't because I've actually got the most gameplay time on an LE, but I have played a pro. Finally.
Fancy.
Yeah, but that's why I got Star Trek is, I did not know anywhere to try the Walking Dead Pro at the time. And I knew I liked Star Trek Pro and I knew I really liked Walking Dead LE and I liked the Walking Dead LE more than I liked Star Trek, but I didn't know if I'd like the Pro. So I got the Star Trek Pro, which is good.
I have a Star Trek Pro too. We overlap.
Star Trek's my favorite game in my collection. It would be the last.
I love that game. That game's
my last one to go.
It's definitely staying.
Yeah, I have no intentions of selling Star Trek, so it's my.
That's another one with the Pro. I mean, other than the laser lights and
lasers.
Yeah,
I thought about.
I'm not paying an extra $1,500 for a laser.
Now I thought about taking some like laser pointers and just like taping the on buttons down and then just like gluing them in on the ramps.
Tony stand next to you and wiggle a laser pen.
Yeah, just like if you have a cat, it's like that. I mean, that's what it is. It's just a mod. Come on, we can do it. Well, I'm glad you liked Logan, Tony.
I did. It was quite enjoyable. I spent a fair amount of time.
Yeah.
My wife went on business to Chicago a couple months ago, and I made her go to Logan and take pictures of everything from my.
Oh no.
And she ended up drinking with like the owner with what's that terrible Chicago? It's like some sort of terrible Chicago liqueur.
Malort.
What is Malarac or something like that?
I think they pronounce it Malort, but I'm not sure.
I think I saw them drinking it on something.
Yeah, Flipping Out Pinball Stream. They have it on there a lot.
Yeah. So
and Jack Danger often will have it. Well, I won't say often, but I've seen him reference it as it's a Chicago rite of passage.
I didn't try it.
Yeah.
You know what I drank?
No.
I drank whiskey and bourbon. That's what I drank.
Isn't bourbon just a type of whiskey?
Well, I drink like expensive whiskeys and bourbon.
Okay. Ooh la la. Sorry.
Anything that's in front of me, pretty much.
Well, I didn't go anywhere. Only thing that's really happened, atypically is I did guest on Slam Tilt Podcast's 135th episode. So I do have a link in the show notes if anyone wants to listen to that. Yeah, with Ron and Bruce. There's Star Trek, Sulu, George Takei references. We talk about hoops. We make fun of Zach Mini a lot, but in a nice, kind way. And we have a really long, drawn-out portion of talking about their Stomp tournament, and then there is a massive discussion of why no one watches competitive pinball. So it's a lot of fun.
I was just watching it this morning, actually. There was some dude in, like, Germany or something broadcasting a tournament.
Yeah.
We went to... my son and I went to Silver Ball Saloon this summer. We saw Bruce's place. I love that place.
Yeah, it's... I would like to, I went to graduate school up there, near there. I went to Syracuse, which I know you love Syracuse, Jason. It's your favorite lacrosse team.
St. John's. I'm a St. John's college basketball fan, so Syracuse is like the Red Sox to the Yankees. They're like the enemy.
Yeah. But I've not been back since I graduated. And I thought, oh, well, that's kind of close. Bruce isn't that far away. It would be nice to go and get to visit his place sometime, but I never have a reason to get back up into the Northeast. So
I've been up there a couple times for lacrosse tournaments in Rochester, so I always make sure to go. It was a pretty cool place. JDL Pinball, IFPA Midsummer Open in Germany. That's what's on right now.
I think JDL Pinball is who streamed those world championships, the one with the famous comeback on Bram Stoker's Dracula.
They do a good job.
Yeah, I heard an interview with one of them on the Backbox Pinball. It's Backbox Pinball podcast? Yeah.
I think so. There's a Pittsburgh Open, I think, is on today on Twitch. One of those. If I can fit that in between the NFL games, I'll flip it on.
Yes, it was Backbox Pinball. I like that podcast. Okay. Well, speaking of podcasts, most of the ones we've mentioned have talked about pinball. So I guess we should talk about pinball as well, even though we are a mere mixed gaming podcast. And we are going to go ahead and we're going to start with something that I don't know. You're the first I saw the sourcing on it, Jason. So I'm giving you credit for breaking the story and forcing all of this out into the open. But I'll take the credit. You should, because I saw it was your Facebook discussion from Knapp Arcade that was getting shared everywhere. And which the problem with all the sharing is then I see like half a dozen different pages with different comments. So if I'm trying to get a full sense of the reaction, I have to read them all. But that is where we're, of course, talking about the new comic art version for the Stern Star Wars pinball machine. I do have a link because it's now public, to the IGN article in the show notes for anyone who wants to actually go and read about it, and they have some imagery of it. The art is by a very famous artist who's done a lot of Star Wars art, and that's Randy Martinez. And it's called the comic art version, and when you look at them, you will definitely get a very comic book vibe to it. But I guess given that it's not a gameplay different, and this is not the pin, this is not the new Star Wars home version. This is the Steve Ritchie one that came out a couple of years ago, just with a new art package. And the art is different on the playfields as well. It looks similar, but comic-fied would be how I would describe it. Comic-fied. So, Jason, what did you think when you saw this? You discovered this gem.
Well, what happened actually was I look up Google News, the word pinball or the word arcade quite frequently. And the day before, actually, there was an IGN article that said Star Wars pinball comic book art. And I was like, what? So I clicked on the link and it was a dead link. So apparently IGN had published it a day too early. And I'm like, what is this? But then I wasn't exactly sure. I didn't really understand what it was. But then I kept looking for it because I was like, something must be going on. That's when I found it. I don't know. I would say maybe an hour or two before Stern officially announced it, IGN had the full link to the article up there, so I had shared it. I think it looks great. I love it. I like especially the premium with the Boba Fett on the side. But I don't, like, a lot of people really had a major problem with the art on the original version. I didn't really mind it at all, especially the premium, which has AT-ATs on the side. If you put AT-ATs on the side of anything, I'll think it looks awesome. So,
Yeah.
Walking Dead.
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's fine.
I mean,
Zombie AT-ATs.
Yeah. For me, the thing with the original art package that I always remember is there was a very big initial reaction to it being a Photoshop job. A lot of comparisons to Game of Thrones. It was hand drawn art. It was the same poses we're always used to seeing because those are the approved looks. But it was drawn. It was not. It was not a mere manipulation of. It's not like 24. Where you just actually have taken stills, digital stills, and then moved
Willy
them around.
Wonka's like that, though, where it's drawn, but it looks, I mean, if you go, I was at an arcade, and there's like a coin pusher. It has like the exact same same art from the Willy Wonka pin, because that's just the approved art.
Right, and it's the same art off of the anniversary DVD set.
Yes,
and it's what's plastered all over it. It's one of the reasons I hate the art.
And that's something that Tony has focused on quite a bit in his his personal opinion regarding Wonka. And I would go so far as to say, well, I recognize that it too is hand drawn. I would have a great deal of difficulty accepting people who would argue that they don't like the art style in the original Star Wars, but they do like the art style in Willy Wonka. Yeah. I don't think you can have it both ways. They're the same. It's the same approach. There's different names. We don't know the names of whoever they used, associated with Lucasfilm and Disney for that original art package. So looking at this new art approach, and I agree. I like the premium one more. And for those looking at IGN or having a vague memory of the imagery, the premium is the one with Vader on the translite, almost alone with just like out in front with his lightsaber. And then the pro version. That was supposedly
a pose that had never been done for Darth Vader before in any sort of drawing. There was a little interview with the artist, and he was talking about how he did that like out of nowhere, and like they loved it, so they went with it. But apparently that's never like no one's ever drawn Vader like that's by himself with the lightsaber, I guess.
It's very menacing, and I didn't remember ever seeing it. Like, I wondered if maybe it was modeled on something from maybe Rebels or a Clone Wars cartoon, but it definitely not a pose we're familiar with from the movies. And I agree with Jason. I really like the Boba Fett side art on the premium. I agree. The premium, I like the pro package. It looks nice. It's clean. And it gives you a really good comic book vibe, and it's definitely something that I would want on the end of a row to show off. But if I was to pick to show off, I'd rather show off the premium.
Yeah, no, I saw a decent amount of criticism of the new art, though. People poo-poo on anything, I guess, but it's funny how Stern went out of its way because everyone's criticizing the old art, and now they're like criticizing the new art, saying it's too colorful and everything else. I don't know.
It's too colorful.
Oh, I love it.
There's like one of these like home edition pins.
I got this glass of water, but it was too wet. My water
There's
was
one of these home
wet.
edition pins like Star Explorer or something like that, and someone was sharing like a picture of this old home edition pinball machine saying it looked like this. I don't know.
This has come up when I stream on Twitch from time to time when I'm interacting with chat, so I'll throw it out here. What do you think, Jason and Tony, about pinball people? Let's call them commoners. And I'm included. I'm included.
Not the aristocracy that you are.
No, not artists. Not artists.
The plebes.
Who then play at Art Critic. And to me, it feels almost paint by numbers. But we can now add, like, here's our checkboxes. Imagine a little list of checkboxes. Things to say to act like you know stuff about pinball art. Too colorful is now on the list. Check.
Okay.
Here's my favorite one that's completely overstated. Well, the colors pop. How many times is that what we've always heard when it's like, why do you like the art? Oh, the colors pop. So I guess if it's not too colorful and you like lots of color, the colors pop. What does that mean? I don't know. I didn't study art, so I have no idea. Yeah. But it sure sounds like baloney to me.
Art is one of those things where when I look at it and if I enjoy it, do I know why I enjoy it? No, I don't. I don't have any idea why I enjoy it. It's just it's like, I like that. That looks nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I try and here's my favorite though, was when Game of Thrones came out and everyone pretended they knew what gradient shading even meant. Like, you guys don't know what gradients are. I know, because I don't know.
The Game of Thrones gets a bum rap because of the art, but it doesn't bother me. The one I got actually has the alternate translite in it, which is, it's nice. I did replace the translite on my Star Trek Pro because I don't like looking Chris Pine in the eyes.
Come on, Chris Pine.
You don't like him staring deep into
I let
your
him
soul?
stare into me. Poor Chris Pine.
He gazes into your soul.
He's looking for the truth. What does God need with a starship? That's the one they should do and kill, and then they could kill the Kelvinverse once and for all. No, I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, I've tried to better articulate when I look at something like overall when Stern was doing the run of nice art, you know, you're using Yeti and Franchi and Dirty Donny, and it's kind of like I tended to gravitate to Franchi's style the most, and if I tried to explain why, you
may not be seeing that anymore.
I may not be, no, but I felt it was his line work. Something about how he was doing his lines was the most appealing to me. Though
I have
last year,
I like his work on
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, and so, but to some people, it's so photorealistic. It's getting into that realm of what they consider Photoshop. But
people call it tracing and stuff like that. And
well, and I don't know how he makes the lines, but they're nice. So, so I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite art package of 2018 was Deadpool. I thought that one, because it was so comic book, and I thought it captured it really, really well. And I knew other people who hated it because they thought it had too much red.
I like the shark one, actually, the premium. The Megalodon. Anything with a giant shark on it is cool.
That was actually my least favorite because I didn't like the shade of blue on the side.
A lot of people don't like the blue color, yeah.
It was this light oceany seawater blue, and I just thought it was out of place with everything else. But
it's a giant shark.
Look, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that I didn't like the color blue. And I know it sounds silly, but I'm not acting like it was too I think for most people, the secret to pinball art is just oversaturate all the colors and you'll win them. Just oversaturate it.
Just push it up. I'm always attracted like a bird or something. I like anything that's colorful. Yeah. Not a super colorful bird. I am a bird and I'm attracted to lots of colors.
So you didn't care for Munsters Premium in the black and white?
Which one?
The Munsters black and white.
Oh, you know what? That's actually kind of neat because it's black and white, and then that makes whatever color there is really pop, as you say.
Yes, as I say, pop. Actually, I really like black and white, but I've always been really fond of black and white art because of the emphasis on light and what it does with that. But
I actually really liked the other day I played for the first time was the Game of Thrones Premium. Not Game of Thrones, Black Knight Sword of Rage Premium. And I like the art on that. I think that art is pretty cool. But, I didn't know what I would think about the upper playfield. I loved it. A lot of people say it ruins the flow and everything like that. It probably helped that I started multi-ball on the top playfield and the bottom playfield at the same time and destroyed it on my first game by, random luck. So that probably made me like it a lot better.
Yeah, I had more time on the premium initially, and I did like the high flow of the pro more. But I felt that the upper playfield on Game of Thrones is one of the best designed upper playfields because it doesn't feel like it feels well, because you had two full size flippers and it was well, maybe not for Jason, but for me, it was usually pretty challenging to get all of those shots in time. So you still didn't stay up there all that long, but because of the ease of trapping up, that's where I think the flow loss happens is you can actually control so well and stay on the upper play field, even if you're bricking. It's a balance.
I think we morphed two pins into one because I started with Game of Thrones and I switched to Black Knight.
Oh, yes. Now, I have not yet played Black Knight Premium or LE.
You haven't?
No, I like it. That's what I was saying. People have the same complaint about the Game of Thrones saying the flow on Black Knight with the upper play field's not as nice, but I thought it was really cool.
Maybe I did play it once at Pinapalooza. I didn't get enough time on it to be able to.
I've played it a whole bunch of times now, but it's okay. I don't have
I know. Yeah. Game of Thrones I can comment on about the loss of flow. On Black Knight, I don't have enough time on the premium to say if I would have liked it better or not. I may have played it once. I didn't get it in the tournament. I know that. So back on Star Wars, obviously the repercussions of this new release involve the impact on the old used versions. And I know you weighed in on this as well, Jason, regarding some pinside trends. It seems that maybe a few Star Wars are popping up now.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just a coincidence or what, but I always look at the pin side marketplace, even though I'm trying not to buy anything else for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm always kind of curious as to what is out there. And probably 2 hours after the news officially broke from Stern, there was like 3 or 4 Star Wars popped up with the old art or the original art for sale. And one of them specifically said in the ad, I'm selling this so that I can get the one with the new cartoon art, which is probably not the best sales strategy, but in any event.
I think it's a mix.
It's not going to help and I don't think that the used market on Star Wars was that strong to begin with in terms of used pricing. But now I got to think that the prices would fall even further if there's more people looking to sell that one, or anyone who was looking to get it Star Wars instead of buying a used one would buy one with the new art. I think that's got to depress prices a little bit. And then
yeah, I agree.
Part of the discussion that I had was, okay, so let's say the prices for used Star Wars Pros falls now, and that just narrows the delta between the home version, the pin, and the used Star Wars that was already too narrow, in my opinion, to begin with. So, I don't know. Maybe Stern has enough of a market of people that don't know anything about buying used pinball machines that just want the pin, and they'll buy it anyways, and it won't matter. But if it was me, there's no way I'd buy the pin over a used Star Wars Pro with the original art for, a couple $100 difference.
Right.
Yeah. I don't, even though I know they're being sold, at least I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it. While I know that our regular pinball distributors are selling the pin, I've assumed that it will also be sold in some non-traditional venues or places where people who are looking for game room stuff but aren't necessarily pinheads are going to go. And I just think that there is a reliance that they are either not interested or they are ignorant of seeking out things on the used market, or thinking that because it's a piece of arcade equipment, it's going to be too hard for them to maintain with
I think the
no
pin
real
actually looks pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I think the layout looks good. I watched
thought
the
it looked
stream
of
it on
my
Flippin'
main
Out.
problem with it was the price, sort of like with the Beatles. Like, I like the Beatles pin. I just don't want to pay $7,000 for it or whatever, or Diamond Edition, 15 grand or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You don't want to just fork that out. Just, it's nothing, right? Just hand it over.
So the pin, I think it looks neat. If it was priced right, I'd actually maybe consider one. But if the difference between a real pin and that is small, I just can't see doing it.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting if there are enough that get out there to see what happens to the pin pricing used. But
it's not out there yet for sale.
And I don't know how many of these new Star Wars, what do you think, how many units do you feel the new Star Wars the new art package Star Wars will move? I mean, yeah, I think it'll sell. It's Star Wars. It's a new look. How many people didn't buy Star Wars just because they didn't like the art, though? Obviously, we've got someone on Pinside saying they're getting rid of their perfectly functional Star Wars because they want one that they feel is better looking. So I'm going to guess there are going to be some people like that, but how many? 100? 200? I don't know. I mean, it is just a reskin. It's not like they had to do any mechanical work.
Right.
It probably didn't cost them a whole lot to do it other than whatever they had to pay for the artist, obviously. So
yeah.
Why not try to milk more out of that license if you can? I would.
I think they'll sell a decent number, but by decent, I still think that less than 1,000 of these move.
Oh,
that's my guess.
Be
That's a 2-year-old game.
Yeah. I don't know how many do you think they sold of the original game? I don't have any concept. It's not like Addams Family numbers back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, they don't release that stuff. I don't think they do. Like,
no, they
on
don't.
Inside, if you look at all the old Bally Williams, it'll say sold X number of units, or Gottlieb's, it'll say sold X number of units, but I don't think they have that anymore.
Early in Stern Pinball's history, they did. Like, you go to like 2000 and such, you can see some of that. I think the issue, what's happened is those were publicly traded companies, so those numbers had to be released for the shareholders. And now that it's privately held amongst Gary and a few other investors or investor, they are not obligated to share that information with the public.
They don't really
because
benefit
there are no public shares. Right. That's bringing up an interesting point. I personally think it would be in Stern's best interest to release production numbers once the games are no longer being produced. because that could influence the used market pricing to help dictate to them what are the best games to vault.
I can see that.
Because that rarity would play a factor. If people were to go in and go, holy crap, they only made 1,200 Tron Pros, then it's like, okay. And then you're going and saying, okay, well, we could vault that, or we could vault Star Trek. And it's like, well, you sold 7,000 Star Treks. Why'd you vault it? Sort of thing. Because the impression was, I remember a lot of people were really surprised because, well, we don't know production numbers. Star Trek, very popular game. A lot of people bought it. Yeah. And then it got vaulted like within a year of it being regularly produced. So
that was kind of strange. I don't know what went into that decision. That happened with the Game of Thrones too. Recently, they did a small run of, I don't know how. I think it was, someone said it was only 100 or something like that. So.
Yeah, I heard that.
I don't know why you would start it back up to do that. I mean, I guess if you can sell them and you have, capacity, why not? But
to fill some time on the line, or it could be with the ending of the show coming up, they decided.
Yeah, that was my guess. I figured with it being the final season, finally, they thought that might raise enough sort of casual interest that they could push a few more units out. And with them knowing internally that Dwight was doing a significant code revision to it. That could have reinvigorated interest. I mean,
that's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one.
So with that as well, I mean, that's why, even though I've heard Dwight say there are no plans, it would make a lot of sense to do another run of Ghostbusters at this point, given that the massive code drop has happened and it's been restructured and there's the new, wizard mode and everything. So
if they do another run of that, they should do as out of the factory. You ever see people put the plastics on it with the center post? They should either do a legit center post or have the one with the plastics coming off, because that makes it a much better game.
If they want to drill, I don't support layout changes. That wouldn't be a layout change though. What I would do is I would say drill a little center pole hole and then include one in the little goodie baggie and say, if you want a center post here, you can screw it in. You won't feel bad for drilling a hole in your playfield.
Yeah, I can see that.
They could tap that hole in from the factory. A lot of
people like do it with aftermarket, not necessarily drill into the playfield, but they do. You've seen the one with the plastic.
Yeah, with the extender. Yeah, and a lot of people like that. I wouldn't put that on, as the default because that's just not the default layout of that game. But
the only problem that
rather have that
brings up the problem of scores and comparing one person's score to another person's score. That's always a problem. If you have one game that's easier than another.
But that's always the case. I mean, you go on something like Pindigo and someone has the took it from me, number one score on hoops, and I'm sure the location game isn't set on hard like mine is.
Right.
It's probably set to 5 balls.
Could be. But it's like, and based off of how that game works on what difficulty determines when the extra balls are triggered and all of that. And it's just like, okay, well, we just played in different circumstances. So I suppose if it really bugged me, I could put my game down to very easy and then take the permanent high score and leave it at that. But
yeah, I think pretty much
take the glass off and just push all the buttons and then take a picture.
True. I could do that too.
I'm the number one Atari Middle Earth score on Pindigo.
I might have to try and find one of those then.
Yeah, so I just ruined it. Someone's going to hear that and
take it out.
My score.
I know someone here in Kansas City who does own a Middle Earth, so that might motivate him to get that back out and working. Assuming it's not, I don't know.
Get that back out and working.
Okay, well, we will, of course, keep our eyes on what goes on with Star Wars Comic Book Edition, but I don't see it as a mistake in any way for Stern. I think this is just going to be a positive for them. So, despite the tears that will be shed by some people that will feel this devalued their Star Wars game.
It's not like the company has any rights.
Do you think the manufacturer should care what happens to people who have purchased the game already or not?
No. I think they should care what happens to the people in the sense of mechanically and how their game's working and that it's still supported. I don't think they need to care about whether or not it holds its value.
Yeah, I don't think their value matters. I think that's nothing that the manufacturer should care about.
And let's be frank. We're talking maybe a few $100s. I mean, what I've seen so far, the old Star Wars games are now moving at kind of what the recently new DMD era games were going at. So we're talking maybe down to low 4s, which is a little atypical, to like mid 4,000s, which is what you usually see games like Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, and Star Trek move at. But so, okay. It's less than $1,000 because
the one that was listed the other day, there was 2 pros. I remember one listed a pro for $5,000, which is never happening in a million years. And the other one who said he was upgrading the art to get to the new art, it was a pin that was on location listed for 46. I don't see that happening either.
Ooh.
I think the prices are going to have to come down.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to. I think it would be very unlikely to see them fall below 4,000. I think
if it did,
yeah.
I
I think original art Star Wars Pro will end up being from 4,000 to 4,500. That's where I think it will be.
For $4,000, that's a pretty cool game.
It is,
even though the multipliers are pretty annoying. But I still think it's a cool theme and a cool fun pin. I don't know.
Yeah, the geometry's good too. So there's a lot going for it. And I think at that, you just have to consider, because that's the factor you always need to remember is, okay, for $4,000, $4,500, what else am I going to be able to get? Probably not anything with an LCD.
No.
So now this becomes very attractive if you want a new looking game.
Well, whatever enters into my mind too is, will I lose money on this if I decide I don't want to keep it? And you probably wouldn't at 4,000. I mean, you could probably flip that.
Well, because assuming it's whatever its status was when you got it, probably isn't changing much. And by that I mean, like, it's not all of a sudden becoming routed when you put it into your house. So given that, you're just not going to. Homeowners just don't put much wear on them. So with that said, it's like, yeah, you're probably not going to see a tremendous dip. And if you did, what, $500?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should put 500 plays on the game before you sell it, and then you feel like it was $1 a play. Yeah, that's always that's where I always go, like, with people who are like, I put 75 plays on this and now I'm selling it. I'm like, why?
I don't understand. That happens all the time.
Why didn't you play it enough? Why don't you play, even if you hate it, why don't you play your loss was worth at least and feel like you didn't cheat yourself? I don't know. This is how my brain works, but. So speaking of newer pinball machines, let's go to the newest of the new, and that would be Elvira House of Horrors. We did talk about that here on this podcast a couple of weeks ago when we saw the images. But since then, Jack Danger over with Deadflip did do a gameplay reveal on Twitch. I have a link to the YouTube of that video in the show notes. Jason, did you get a chance to look at any of the video?
I did watch it live when it was on. I didn't watch all of it. I don't know how, maybe I watched 20, 30 minutes, something like that. I don't know exactly how much. Someone said there were some issues with the game. Someone was saying there was some issues with the game during the stream. I didn't see that.
I didn't either. And I was in stream for about 30 minutes. Tony, did you get a chance to see any of the video?
I didn't get a chance to watch any of it. So,
well, Jason, what are your thoughts on what you did see of the video?
The playfield looks pretty open down below. But, you know, a lot of people were criticizing it, saying it didn't have a lot of shots and stuff like that. But I thought that the mechs on it looked really cool. I think the house is pretty neat. You can, like, go into the basement, and you can different aspects of different shots move and open up. And looks like there's different routes the ball can take once it goes into the house and things like that. It looks like it's probably pretty neat. I mean, that's a tough – people love the party monsters, and people love scared stiffs. So that's a tough pin to live up to in terms of the lineage or the previous versions of it. But I think it looks good. I think, again, for me, like we were discussing with Beatles and everything else, I think it's just going to come down to price. I think that there's only a premium and an LE and then some like crazy LE or whatever that people were paying like $15,000 for or something like that. So like I wouldn't personally pay that much probably for one, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who will. It looks like it'll be a fun game.
Yeah, I thought that it shot about what I expected from looking at the photos. It is open in the lower sections. It's a complete fan layout by the very cookie cutter definition of fan. It meets all the criteria. I've thought about writing an article explaining what fan layouts are to people because I don't think everyone understands what they are, but this is a fan. It looks
like a Nordman design though. I can see Nordman's fingerprints on it if you look at some of his other games.
Yeah, I kind of can. I guess I was expecting a little more. One of the things that I associate with Nordman, at least in his later periods, was a little more creativity with the ramp designs. And I think it's there hidden in the mechs. but it's not there visually on the surface of the playfield. And I kind of thought, like, where's the crazy whitewater ramp, or where's the weird ramp stuff from Pirates of the Caribbean, that sort of stuff. And I don't
wiggly
see
ramp
that.
on Scared Stiff.
Yeah. There's no pizzazz to the ramp, the physical ramp layouts. And typically he does a little, well, he's not like J-pop. Let's just make him swirl all over the place like some sort of crazy figure eight.
How about Oktoberfest? The Oktoberfest ramp?
Or Balser. Well, Balser, he's so eclectic. He kind of does whatever on any particular game. But they were relatively straightforward. I agree. I think the house with the diverter, looks really good. It seems to flow really, really well. So that mech seems to work well. I was most impressed by the crypt shot on the right. That's the mech. It's like a 3-stage where it'll open. There's a head, and then that can, I guess, lift up, and then that exposes a hole to shoot into.
Yeah.
So that looked like a really cool mech. But I mean, kind of in Jason's boat in the sense that because there's no pro, and I look at this, and especially when you look at the surface of it for people, I don't think you see premium per se. I think with the mechs, I get it, but it seems like this premium price point is higher than the traditional premium price point is even. So with all of that factored in, it's just too expensive for what it is. I thought the callouts were great. They got custom animation work, like filming with Cassandra.
Yeah.
That seemed really cool. The humor's all there. The voice work's all there. I think a lot of Elvira fans will like it if they get it. And I think a lot of them will get it.
Yeah. I think it's going to sell well.
I think it'll sell okay.
They were sitting on this design for a long time. Like
Yes.
at least 2 years this pin has been designed from a gameplay perspective, I think. So it's interesting that it took them so long to get it out, and now it almost feels like it's rushed in order to get it out in time for Halloween. Like it's just a weird combination of things where they've had it for so long, and now it feels like they're hurrying to get it out.
Yeah, and I feel that sense of urgency is driven entirely by trying to make the holiday season, the Halloween.
Well, they have to get it out
season.
before Halloween.
Right.
They have to.
And
that's like not having the Oktoberfest pin out before Oktoberfest. You got to get it out.
And I don't know if maybe there was, there were changes or delays in the process of doing the video assets or anything like that, because we know that the layout was done for a long time. So there's nothing about that needed to be rushed along. I also think that this was the period where they felt they could finally slip it in. I don't think Stern expects this to make them bucket loads of money, and they just kind of want to get it off of the plate so that the obligation is done. So, well, I think it will sell well for a premium tier pin.
Yeah.
As a premium tier pin, I don't think they're expecting to move 2,000 units of it.
What do they call it? Cornerstone or Keystone or something like that?
Yeah,
Cornerstone game.
Cornerstone.
It's not a Cornerstone game.
No, nor should it be.
Yeah. No.
So I think it was very smart that they didn't make a pro version of this, because I do not think, well, a lot of people still know when they hear what the name Elvira is associated with. Even younger people, I think, would probably go, oh, Elvira, that's something to do with horror.
Right.
They don't. The love for the franchise is aging out.
That might not be the first thing they think of when they
right. They might not. And so, but I like the idea of it with all the B movies and all of that incorporated in. I think, to me, I wouldn't be surprised if this would be my favorite of the 3 Elvira games. I don't
know. I actually really liked the first 2, which is kind of funny because the theme's kind of meh for me, but the games themselves are pretty darn fun.
I like the humor of Scared Stiff. I don't love the layout of it. I don't like that scoop over by the deadheads and how it kind of shoots, but it doesn't shoot into the pops. And I don't like the wide open ramp that you do to easily activate the lock shot.
The bonuses are weird. When you get a bonus shot, it's worth like nothing. And you're like, what?
Yeah. So, and then Elvira and the Party Monsters, I actually like the layout more, but
I used to have those little puppets when I was young.
Yeah.
I used to love those things. So that's why I like that game a lot.
So I actually prefer Elvira and the Party Monsters from a layout perspective. Of course, that as a System 11, it only goes so far. And, that I know competitively, a lot of people didn't care for that game because it's a lock stealing game, and some competitive people hate lock stealing.
Well, yeah.
Well, don't lock balls if you don't want them stolen. That's the TNA philosophy.
It adds strategy to it, actually, really, if you think about it. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's Elvira. We will keep seeing what happens with that. I still don't know if we're going to get one.
Do you think the next one is the next Stern?
Well, I think it will be a cornerstone. What do you want me to guess what the theme will be, or what?
Yeah.
What?
Let's see if we can nail it.
I'm hearing strong rumors about James Bond.
I've heard Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I've heard that as well. I've heard
There's
Bill
too
and
much
Ted's
smoke
got some
that.
buzz
That's gotta
as well.
Be happening.
Who do you think? Like, I'm guessing the next game is Brian Eddy's.
We got to get one. He's been there for like 2 years now, almost,
Yeah, that's
and there
the
hasn't
thing.
been a game yet.
It's like, why have we seen 2 games out of Elwyn now? And still
Well,
not
one
seen
of them's
Eddy's
kind
work.
of a morphed version of the other one. To a
Yeah,
certain
but
degree.
I mean, Archer was, okay, so I'm sure it was quicker than designing it from scratch, but still, I mean, Archer was a wide body. They had to slim the whole thing down. It wasn't just
When
like
I first
drag
Jurassic-
the scale tool.
I thought Jurassic was going to be Brian Eddy when I heard that it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised that it was Elwyn. That's the other probably designer that I would have wanted right now. So that was good for me anyways. But I was kind of surprised it wasn't Brian Eddy.
Yeah, just in terms of how long Brian's been there, because they announced that at 2018 TPF that he was hired back at Stern. So it's like, okay, and it's been a while now.
I'd expected to have had a machine early this year at the latest, and it's late. It's late 19.
If it's not Brian Eddy, then the next game's going to be Borg.
Well, you know what I've heard, and I think everyone's heard this rumor, and I actually think it's probably not true that they're doing a Quicksilver redesign as a Led Zeppelin machine. I'm kind of thinking like the Beatles sort of. I'm starting to think that's not true because it's like such a trendy rumor.
Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't be shocked if they do that, but I think
wouldn't be Cornerstone anyways.
No, and that's the thing. I don't think they would do that this year. I think that would be every fall they do a boutique release. Mm-hmm. If you've noticed, it's Elvira this time. Last year it was Beatles, Kapow, Beatles game.
Right.
Year before that it was the what was the year before that? Well, that wasn't Batman, was it? That was the year even before that.
Well, that was the Kapow, yeah.
Right.
I don't remember when stuff came out.
The first
Everything
one
seems like it blends together.
Yeah. So it seems like they do something usually at this point a boutique-esque style, non-pro available, often in partnership with Kapow, but not always.
They're probably due for another Kapow, I would think.
Well, at first I had just assumed that Kapow branding was going to be on the Elvira.
Right. Well, that was the rumor. People were saying that, and it was somewhat.
I know.
Right,
I spread that rumor. I blame myself for that. It was. I always noted it was pure speculation.
I wouldn't say that it's wrong. The fact that there's no pro, it might as well say Kapow. It's no different.
Well, I think it's wrong. So I'll say it.
Come on, I'm trying to give you credit.
Well, no, it was merely the Kapow branding would merely have meant that Kamikow had secured the license, and apparently that was not the case. So
I don't think Elvira is a license that's super difficult to procure.
No, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if, because it was all through contract work, if Nordman had kind of arranged with Cassandra Peterson to do a new Elvira game, and then they went to Stern and said, we'll do it. We've got the idea. I want Greg on art. I'll do the layout. Cassandra's on board to do the licensing arrangement. We've already worked out all the details.
Well, think about how long that must have been in the works, though, because Nordman's been at Deeproot for like 2 years. So that means that this game must have been, he wasn't doing Stern and Deeproot at the same time.
No. Greg is.
So that means this must have been forever.
Yeah, for a long time, when people ask me about Dennis Nordman in the modern era of pinball design, I've actually described him. I don't mean it in a negative way, but I've often described him as a pinball mercenary because I felt he's been a gun for hire for quite a while, willing to contract with anyone who will hire him. So
I'd be for hire. No one's buying.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with being a mercenary.
Yeah. So Dennis, obviously he was doing stuff with Stern, and then when that dried up, he went over and gave a design over to Highway Pinball, and then back to do a contract arrangement with Stern, and then now tied in with Deeproot. So you gotta go where the money is.
You gotta flash the cash.
This would actually tie in nicely with the Deeproot discussion. Is that the way you're taking things? Do you see the segue?
Well, we can hop in over to the Deeproot part now. Sure. So you noted before we started recording, Jason, that, it sounds like there's plans for 2 retro atomic zombie Adventureland game prototypes, also commonly referred to and for hereafter referred to on this episode as RAZA, so I don't have to say all that, at the Houston Arcade Expo. And Deeproot a while ago had been noting that they were planning to unveil prototypes at the Arcade Expo. I didn't know the quantity. So you telling me that the plan is currently 2 was new news to me. I did know that they are planning to use, people are not to expect this to be finalized items. They are true prototypes and they want to see how they play in a public setting.
Yeah, they really downplayed what basically the expectations for it. They were just basically saying they want to collect data from people banging on their machines for a while. I think that was the general gist of it.
Yeah, I've got the exact quote here. And it is...
Look at that research.
Yeah. 2 early prototypes of Retro Atomic Zombie Adventureland will be at the Houston Arcade Expo on November 15th through the 16th, 2019. These prototypes will not have final art, design, or code. Our primary goal is to collect real-world data. And there'll be a minimal Deeproot staff.
If you follow them, Deeproot Studios, it's like the art arm of the Deeproot whatever. I guess I was going to call it Deeproot Pinball, but I guess it's supposed to be more than that. But if you follow them on Instagram, they have all sorts of art that looks like it's going to be coming up in games that they're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've at least looked at a number of the pieces that seem to be associated with RAZA. So given how they phrased it, that it wouldn't be a variety of final things. I'm assuming though this won't be a whitewood and this will actually have art on it. It just might not be finalized art. That's my guess.
That's how it sounds.
Or do we think that's incorrect and that this is actually going to be like whitewoods?
Unless it's really far along, I think they open themselves up to a massive amount of criticism. I think people are looking to bang on them a little bit anyways because of the J-pop stuff. So if it didn't look awesome, I'd just make it a whitewood and did not put anything on it.
One of the things that's been coming up, even yet again with a fairly recent interview that Jeff Patterson over with This Week in Pinball had conducted with Robert Mueller of Deeproot, was he's still referencing the hammer. This is something that came up when we did an interview last year with Robert on this show, and the idea of, the dimpling, the clear coat issues. Obviously that's been front and center for a lot of folks lately because of all the struggles at Stern and JJP regarding their clear coat. And he's still saying that, there will be a hammer test going on. There's still a lot of bold statements. There was also in that interview a lot of discussion about how Deeproot will be willing to license all of their innovative tech to boutique pinball companies.
I think that's them kind of thumbing their nose at the existing manufacturers.
Yeah, and that's been something that's happened several times during the course of this journey, this sojourn that we've been witnessing for Deeproot. What do you think of that, Jason?
Well, they said they're going to put a 10-year warranty on the playfields against everything, including dimpling. I mean, I think that there's no doubt that playfield quality seems to have deteriorated, and I don't know. People think that a lot of that has to do with cost cutting. I don't know that it's that as much as the environmental. I mean, you used to be able to throw whatever you wanted into the clear coat, like lead and all kinds of asbestos, whatever the hell you put in there. Anything that was horrible for you, I'm sure, was in there, and it was rock solid. Now it's all water-based. And, maybe they're cutting corners, maybe they're not. But there's no doubt that the playfields aren't holding up like they were. It doesn't seem like it to me. So if you were able to do that in-house, which most of the manufacturers do not do at this point. All that's outsourced to CPR and Merco, I think, are the two, right? And then there was another one. Didn't Chicago Gaming used to make playfields for people before they started doing their own remake machines? I think they did as well. So, if you're a manufacturer now and you're not doing that in-house, you're kind of at the mercy of the suppliers to a certain degree. So Deeproot doing it themselves, which it sounds like, you would think they'd be able to make them pretty solid. Whether or not it would live up to the hyperbole that banging it with hammers and things like that, I don't know. But, I would think they could probably improve that. They've certainly had enough time to do it. So, I mean, I don't know why.
Are you interested in a Deeproot game, Jason?
I mean, I want them to do well. I think more pinball is good. I mean, I like almost anything I play. Whether or not I would want to own it or not is another thing. I'd love to play deeproot games on location. For me, a lot of people say it's only the gameplay for them and they don't care, but for me, theme is kind of important. Like, I want to have stuff that I actually like the theme of to look at. So right now I have Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Trek. I'm going to have a Jurassic Park. I have Game of Thrones. Like, I like all those shows and movies. So for me, I think theme matters. So would I want Retro Atomic Zombieland? I don't know. The trailer's pretty amusing. The game would have to be pretty awesome for me to want to own it, though, I think. Just because for me personally, theme matters. A lot of people don't think it does, but I think so. But if I don't know what the price point's going to be or anything on this. I mean, if they could do something where it would be affordable for location, then hopefully there's going to be a lot of them out there.
Tony, are you looking forward to RAZA specifically?
Not specifically. I'm looking forward to see what we get out of Deeproot. I'm seriously interested in what's going to come out of it. And the truth of the matter is the theme for RAZA is something that's in my wheelhouse, but overall it's nothing extra special to me. I just kind of want to see what they've got going and how it comes out. They've built so much mystery. Yeah. They built so much mystery. I just want to see the truth behind it.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I can't comment on what I think of RAZA because I've not seen the layout. And to me, that is the most important thing. Layout is most followed by code, or rule set, I should say. I don't really care about the programming per se. But and how that implements. No. Surely not. No, for me, because my pins aren't showpieces. So that's where I don't get hung up on art. And then theme can help with immersion on modern games. But I have so many games where you don't get immersed in Jacks to Open. I don't feel like I'm a playing card. So
I feel like playing actual cards.
I'm like, no, I am the card. I'm the one that wants to be. I wish I got to be in a royal flush, but I'm just an 8 of spades. Sad. It's like, I don't know. I've actually heard people describe it. I mean, an immersion and what that means. It's just like, do you feel like you're in the world? I've actually heard people describe it. I remember when Total Nuclear Annihilation was first, I hated this. That's why I'm going to comment on it. So sorry to all of you out there that think this way and will be offended. But when the art was revealed for Total Nuclear Annihilation, and it bothered people that the Scarlet, the woman, was front and center because they were trying to describe how they need to feel like they are the ball. And they are the one doing everything, and that they aren't a girl, so they couldn't do that. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
I hadn't even heard that.
That you or even think of yourself as the ball is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah, there are so many problems with that entire line.
It's like, this is not an RPG, okay? You need to quit. You need to go and LARP out in the field somewhere. This is not the game for you.
Well, see, I read a lot. I watch a lot of movies. I do this and that, but I've never had that immersion thing. I've seen so many people comment about something. They'll see something in a movie and it breaks them out of the immersion. It breaks them out of the movie. So they don't. I've never had that.
I did in the third version of the trilogy of The Hobbit. I went and I saw it in that 60 frames a second.
Yeah.
And it was the super high quality. And I could tell one of the rocks was styrofoam. That broke my immersion. I was like, you can't be afraid of that rock. It's styrofoam. Look at it. There's too much detail. You could tell it was fake. You could tell super bad it was fake. So that sort of stuff will be like, oh, no, the movie world is now too artificial.
It's too artificial.
The theme might matter to me. The theme might matter to me more, too, because I have kids. I mean, I have a 5th grade son, and we watched Guardians of the Galaxy the other day, and when Quill pulls out the ball and like drop the orb and drops it, we both looked at each other and said, "Extra ball," you know. So like the scenes from the movie, I just like the theme from that perspective.
I think at this point you want to have smart themes. In fact, we can transition to a non-listed topic that ties in with the declared intent to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy on Suncoast Pinball. And the problems with Cosmic Carnival, arguably one of the chief of which would be that is a terrible theme.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think the theme would have been a problem for it if it played well, because people love the art. So
well,
I think
that would have been my argument, and that was when I'd seen it, and I often would, when I would have my discussions with Zach Minnie on This Week in Pinball podcast, who, as a distributor, was a distributor for Suncoast Pinball as well.
I was going to say, I think he has one sitting around.
I think he's working on a trade to get rid of that. And anyway, one of the things I always stressed was it's 2019. You can't do a symmetrical layout. That was a mistake. You've cut your shots in half by doing it. Unless you've got something to make up for it. And at your modern price point, you won't. And all they ever did was redesign the shapes of the ramps, but they never moved them after the feedback at TPF.
Right.
And most of that redesign was to allow more of the art to be seen. They banked everything on Dirty Donny. And Dirty Donny's art on that game is incredible.
Well, it paid off. I mean, that's the only reason why people want that game at all.
I think it's his best pinball art package he has done. But the gameplay the layout is very EM oriented. And even at that in mind, not particularly well designed to access other aspects, like getting back up top to the top lanes and such. It wasn't well designed as a layout.
That whole thing crumbled fast. They must have been flying pretty close to the sun, because it was just, oh, here we are, we're selling them. All of a sudden it was like, poof, nothing.
Well, why don't they, sue some people and start GoFundMe and start begging people that they're going to hand make them in their basement?
I'm glad that they saw the writing on the wall and they declared their bankruptcy. I thought that was a smart move. And my understanding as to why it seemed to crumble so quickly is this basically got triggered because they owed back rent. My understanding is the owner personally guaranteed the rent. So he could not isolate that aspect from the company because he underwrote it as an individual. So he wasn't shielded from that failure. So he needed to declare bankruptcy now to get that in line before it devastated him personally.
Oh, good move. Yeah.
So that was from Pinball News and Pinball Magazine podcast, I believe, started away. I'm not very far in that episode, but I do recall hearing that aspect. So that was something new to me. But yeah, if he was like, I'm the guarantor so that you'll let me have this lease. They would end up putting back on him as an individual. It's like, okay, I definitely see why you want to act now, because people were looking at it like, well, you only owe like $7,000, or even if it doubled up, it's like $15,000. That's not really that much money. It's like, yeah, well, to an individual, $15,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, but how many games? I don't know what the margins are like in that, but he could have sold a couple of the pins he already had and paid. I mean, it's got to be a lot deeper than 7 or 15 grand.
Well, I mean,
there's got to be some stuff coming that
I mean, I don't know. I mean, part of the people that will have to be claimants are 4 people who purchased games and didn't receive them. So it's not like he had any in stock to sell off and balance the books. He was, they owe people pins. So
that sucked.
So yeah. So given all of that, it was clearly not working out for them. But again, a lot of people, if you just heard, you're like browsing around and you're like, what are the current pinball machines available? And you just saw a list of titles like over on This Week in Pinball and you saw Cosmic Carnival. That theme isn't going to get you to click on that.
It's not.
No.
Oh, carnies. They smell of space cabbage. I'm not going to look at it.
I mean, we are in whether you like it or not, we are in a time where, as much as pinball people say they don't care about licensed pens are what sells.
People do, for sure. I mean, I think that's just but it goes back to your art thing. I think it's just a trendy thing to say.
I think people who do say it, believe it. I think there's a segment of the hobby that really does long for original pins. They're just not enough to save a company.
Right.
And they often want other things as well. They're not, because they may say, I want original themes, they're in no way obligated to buy a garbage symmetrical layout like Cosmic Carnival because they said that. And as much as I make fun of the layout because I'd not played the game, I hear the code was pretty bad. So the rules also weren't there. It just wasn't a player. Who wants pinball machines that don't play well? There is a segment of the hobby that is in it for the looks. But other than that,
Magic Girl?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Who wants a trophy piece that isn't even fun? I mean, that's one of the biggest complaints about the high values and talking about Big Bang Bar, and people are like, oh, I'm thinking about getting a Big Bang Bar because they see the pricing and they think it must be this great game. And everyone's like, it's a mediocre player. So just go in.
Big Bang Bar is a heck of a lot better than what Magic Girl or Cosmic Carnival. At least it's somewhat legit game.
It plays, but everyone's like, don't think that Big Bang Bar is expensive because it's a fun game. It's an okay game. It was an okay game at the like if it had come out in the 90s, it wouldn't have been a hit. It was an okay game.
Yeah.
The art is what moves it, as well as the story. The story behind the whole Cunningham build and everything. It's exciting. It's a neat story. Really cool story.
Cactus Canyon falls into that category too of games that is more popular than it would be had there been more of them.
Yeah. I agree. It's got that mystique of its low count, last, traditional, non-pinball 2000 that Williams did. If they had gotten fleshed out more, it would have been a decent game. It's got some cool ideas.
It just feels kind of unfinished at times.
Mm-hmm. Well, our last, speaking of art and Dirty Donny, our last pinball topic that we have is there was some Instagram movement from Dirty Donny where he has, unveiled some Stranger Things art, which apparently has gotten people talking about whether or not Stranger Things, Stern, could he be doing these Stranger Things art for Stern? It has been a rumor for quite a while now that Stern does have the license to do Stranger Things. That's in their wheelhouse at this point. They're stable. I guess while it would be fun to hold it to the end, I will note Donnie did clarify that the art is for a fuzzy blacklight poster that he was doing for Netflix, not for Stern. So, wah wah. But I've not seen Stranger Things. Would that be a good pinball theme? I don't know.
I think they've missed the window with that. It's almost like it's too late now, to me, personally. I mean, there's a lot of people who love it, but for me, it seems like they didn't strike while the iron was hot for that one.
I think the prime time would have been just before the release of Season 3. They have confirmed a Season 4. That was confirmed earlier this week, but I don't know. It could be too late for it to be the big kind of hit thing you would hope for.
I've seen some people say that they, who have watched the show, indicate that if there was a pin, they would want it to just be Season 1.
I could see that argument.
That's the good one for sure. Well, you could throw part of Season 2 in there because the opening of Season 2 where they're in the arcade is probably the best part of any of them. Season 2 goes downhill from there, but they're in like an 80s retro arcade that's pretty iconic.
Okay,
so I don't recall them. I know they didn't play any pinball. I don't even recall seeing a pinball machine in the arcade.
No, I don't think there was any pinball in there. It was more video games. I think they were playing like Missile Command or Space.
Yeah, they were playing like Missile Command and Dig Dug and stuff like that.
So I think a lot of the interest there is, I get why Stranger Things is popular because it is designed to push a bunch of nostalgia buttons.
And it does it very well.
And so, and pinball is a very nostalgia driven hobby. So a nostalgia within nostalgia's nostalgiaception. And so that would have been a fun theme, Inception. But
I think if they did Stranger Things, they'd have to do 1 and 2 to incorporate the beginning of Season 2 with the arcade in it. That the arcade, just even the sign for the arcade, like that's was pretty well received by people.
Yeah, I think it might be one of those things where if they did it, they just do it as Stranger Things and just include stuff mixed in from all over it without it being like a Season 1 or Season 2 or Season 3 thing. It would just be as a whole. And then they would just grab bag things from all of the seasons as necessary for whatever they wanted, would be my guess.
Well, we'll see. Obviously, I don't know. I guess if maybe Stern's been pushing Stranger, I mean, if they've got the license, maybe that would be coming up, and it wouldn't be a bad move to have Dirty Donny doing artwork for Stern. But if the game was coming out fairly immediately, Donny had been contracted to do 3 games with Suncoast, so I don't think Stern would use him while that was right. But that would be okay if the game is a ways out still and they hadn't picked an artist yet. But if the game is more imminent, I can't imagine that Stern used him.
Is he on good terms with Stern? Because what was the last game they did for them? Metallica?
Aerosmith.
Oh, Aerosmith. He did the Aerosmith art.
Yeah.
But it just seems like you would have thought he would have been in the rotation more, especially if Franchi's not. I don't know. Maybe he still isn't. I heard there was some sort of thing. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
My general sense is, with all of those, Yeti and Donny and Franchi, they're all contracted. They're all contract artists. It's project by project. So I don't know if there's necessarily an intent to do a rotation with them, or if Stern's reading the tea leaves of sales and the reactions that they see on forums and discussion groups, and then are like, okay, let's go and explore other artists like Johnny Crap and stuff. Let's try other artists and see how those resonate that seem to have high skill. And, we'll just mix things up as much as
I almost think that trying out new artists is a function of too many old artists burning bridges, but I don't know. I think they would have been happy to keep the same rotation had everyone been getting along.
It could be, but another aspect might be that there are all of these artists, because they're on contract. I don't know how much they're making per game, but they're clearly all very reliant on doing other work as well. And it seems like it's very stressful to do a pinball project on top of doing, because most of their other projects, I think, are a lot more straightforward. It's usually stuff like posters, band t-shirts, things like that, where they have relationships established and it's probably fairly low stress.
Right.
And the pinball stuff seems to be a lot higher stress because they're jumping through licensure hoops. They're not in direct communications. And obviously there's a whole lot more to do with a lot of detail and, aligning with layout and everything. So yeah, I had not heard. So, as far as what my sources, what little sourcing I have, Jason, I have not heard.
You have more sources than I do.
I wouldn't say that.
You're my source.
I have not heard that Dirty Donny has burned any bridges permanently at Stern.
Okay, that's good.
I can't say that the same for all the artists.
Yeah. Some people, there's been some fires.
There have been some minor flames. So, we flamed out now on pinball, so we'll move to our video game section. Tony, you've got like 3 topics here.
Yeah, I've got 3 little things.
Itty bitty baby things.
Tiny, tiny little things. And the most interesting of them to me right now is we finally have some solid numbers on the Epic Game Store. Because the Epic Game Store has been grabbing up all of these exclusives, and one of the companies they grabbed exclusives with put out a budget call, a budget notice for investors type thing, and it included the numbers for what they got paid for their exclusive deal from Epic, and it was $10.49 million.
Wow.
Oh.
To get, and that was with Remedy and their publisher 505 Games.
Better be a good game.
I've not played it. The game's called Control, and it also is part of an advance for another game. But the way they did it, Epic is giving out advances on sales. So basically, they're taking, we'll give you what you'd make for your first so many sales to make it so you're exclusive to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like publishers do with authors.
That's a good way for them to get their foot in the door, because I don't think Steam was exactly all that generous from a lot of the games from what I heard.
No, Steam's not all that generous with anything. And that's why they've been losing so many, especially the independent developers, because the independent developers are the ones who'd be doing, Kickstarters and Patreons and early access stuff to get their game, to get enough money to finish their games. And now Epic's just walking in and going, so yeah, here's just a stack of money. Finish your game and publish with us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And even if they don't do the exclusives, the Epic share per sale percentage wise is much smaller than Steam's.
Yeah. Steam is 26% or 22% now. I think they reduced it, and Epic's is like 12 or under. So
yeah, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. It's a massive, massive difference in money. And most of the problems with the Epic Game Store are stuff that are teething problems like Steam went through. And as they get better, it's just going to be a bigger problem. And Steam's going to have to do something. Steam has already made major changes to how their library works, and major changes to their entire store layout that they have started rolling out in the last few months. Entirely because of the fight with Epic. They actually have to change something now. people are paying attention and they're not the big ones.
They
Interesting.
can't rest on their laurels.
Yeah, they can't just sit there and remain being the insanity that was being a monopoly. Another little bit of just interesting trivia is Pokemon did a 24-hour live stream for their new Pokemon game, and it was just a video set up of shooting a picture like a camera set up looking into a forest. That's it. And occasionally another Pokemon would walk by. They had more than 25.
So you watched all 24 hours of it?
I did not. There were people who did. There were people who were watching it while live streaming themselves, watching it for the full 24 hours.
I'm going to stream myself watching someone watching this.
Yeah.
Is this like those Yule log Twitch streams that have become
like
really
the Yule
popular?
Log Twitch streams and all. But it had more than 25,000 viewers. I checked it out at 3:30 in the morning, and there were 17,000 people at 3:30 in the morning Central Time still watching this thing. I watched
You
it
can't
for
even
about...
get 17 people to watch a pinball stream, and there's
Exactly.
17,000 people watching cartoon Pokemons run around in the woods.
Yeah, but the thing is you'd only see a Pokemon like every 45 minutes. Otherwise, it was literally just a clearing in a forest and some noises occasionally. And every once in a while, a Pokemon would be on screen for like 3 seconds. That was it. Up until like the very last 6 minutes of the stream, they had My Little Pokemon run out and nuzzle on the middle of the screen and then run off. That was it. It was, I just could not fathom the numbers of people. I know Pokemon is popular. But for the final hour of the stream, they were over 25,000 people again for the whole
That's
stream.
crazy.
And my last little thing is a return to a discussion we had a long time ago about loot boxes.
Loot crate.
And pay to win stuff. Ghost Recon Breakpoint just came out.
Yeah.
They've got a whole crafting system, an enrolled purchase system for equipment and guns and this and that. And apparently, you can buy every single thing with real money if you're willing to jump through the hoops to do it. You want a bigger magazine? Cash. Sniper scope. Silencer. Cool knife. So it's not just cosmetics. It is game-enhancing stuff. They even, when the game first launched, for the first week of launch, had XP bonuses and stuff like that you just, here's $5. There you go. You get double XP for an hour. Type stuff. So all the horrible stuff that EA got trashed for with Star Wars last year, and everything that we thought Ubisoft brought it back.
I hate paying for in-game stuff. I'd rather light my money on fire, I think.
But are you getting to pick the specific item and buy it versus the actual loot crate?
No, but I'd rather
to
pay
win?
like $60 and just have a game.
Right.
Than,
And that is
pay $10 and get milked all the way
It's
along.
games as a service now, Jason.
Yeah.
It's games as a service.
at least
Everyone
unlike the
wants
loot box.
to do monthly subscription of this, monthly
It's
subscription of that.
WoW again. Yay!
WoW Vanilla Classic.
But no, that is one thing. You choose what you want to buy here. It's not the loot crate where you buy crates and hope that you get what you want.
This is not gambling.
Yeah, it's not gambling now because, a bunch of companies are getting in trouble with that, especially over in the EU. Loot crates are getting just thrown down left and right. Now, the one thing they did to keep people from really freaking out is when you go into the PvP section, it puts everybody as the exact same. So you can't buy to win. You can't pay to win.
Oh, it's just for the single player.
Well, it's in the single player and the co-op and all of that. But in PvP, everybody's equal. So it goes back to just skill-based there. But the game's not designed around PvP. This is an actual storyline game designed around the cooperative multiplayer or single-player aspect.
Okay.
So,
Well, we'll see if given it's not, I don't know. I don't know if they'll get raked over the coals for it or not.
they got
I have
right
a
over
video
the-
game topic for you guys if we'll slip it in at the end.
Yeah, that's fine. We can slip it in now. I don't have a whole lot more.
Zen hasn't come out with any tables for the Zen Pinball Arcade, any Bally Williams tables in like 6 months, it seems like.
I've noticed that I hadn't seen any announcements, but I didn't put really any thought into it. What do you think?
They're redoing Castle Storm. They have a new Castle Storm. Then they have a game that's, I think, an exclusive for the new Apple Arcade or something like. It seems like they're stretching all their programmers really thin, and whatever programmers they did have from the pinball side, they used to port the Star Wars tables over to Switch. It seems like they don't have enough programmers to properly utilize the Bally Williams license, in my opinion.
You may be right. I could definitely see them desiring not to take the risk of expanding their staff, and then they've got so many ongoing projects. I mean, my suspicion is that the license is not, been taken or in the process of being taken by anyone else.
No,
I don't know who else would get it, because I still await to see Pinball Arcade's bankruptcy. Because they
haven't admitted their death yet. They just they did a tournament the other day, and the comments section was so toxic. Everyone's like, "Screw you," blah blah blah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for. I guess because no one wants it is the only reason why Zen hasn't taken Gottlieb from them while they took everything else.
Nobody wants Gottlieb.
Hey, you're the king of Gottlieb. How dare you?
Hey, those are vicious stereotypes that I do not subscribe to.
I do wonder if it's just a matter of too many irons in the fire, or if it's more of they're trying to do a bunch of extra before they start rolling ones out.
Sure. Or the prioritization could be based off of sales. And if they didn't move as many Bally Williams tables as they thought they would when they got the license initially, they may have thought, okay, the demand isn't what we thought it would be. So these are back burner projects.
Right. Because it could be that most of the people who had the actual interest already had the pinball arcade tables.
Right.
And
they didn't help things by doing ones that already existed. I mean, everything they've done. So, I don't remember off the top of my head, but 99% of them.
I agree. But again, you're like, well, but the most popular things are, games like Medieval Madness. So we need to do the popular ones so people buy.
Right.
Well, you know what they did too, though? They had the DMD, physics and graphics and whatever all left over from the original tables already to a certain extent. I know they redid it, but all the games they're doing are DMD games, and all the games that they're doing are unlicensed right now, so they don't have to jump through those hoops.
Yeah, they don't have to do that. Yeah.
If you want an unlicensed DMD game, chances are they've already been done by TPA. So that's part of the reason why there's so much overlap, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, TPA got through a lot. That was my big, as much as I would have bothered complaining about Pinball Arcade was, they too started with basically all the awesome games. And then they just had to start doing B and C tier games after that. So every season pack was less and less attractive because it's like,
that's why I've got
Starship Troopers. I'm so excited.
That's why
I bought them all, unfortunately.
See, I've only got the first several specific season packs, and if it didn't have games that I was really all in on, I didn't bother.
I only bought them at the season packs.
For a while, I was trying to move up their leaderboards, so I got sucked in. So I bought every single one, and then I was like, why am I buying them all?
Yeah, I don't know.
Even their terrible remake, the Doctor Who remake, was so bad, and I bought that just so I could move up the leaderboards.
That was the one they kickstarted, didn't they? Wasn't it?
I never did a Kickstarter for them, but I did buy them all. Yeah.
They kickstarted several. They had to do a Kickstarter for Terminator 2. They had a Kickstarter Addams Family. They had a Kickstarter. Star Trek Next Gen was a Kickstarter. Basically almost any of the major movie or TV tie-ins required them to raise outside funds.
To cover the licensure.
Yeah. And but their software is such a mess. It's like they'd break other older games whenever they'd modify their main engine to like when they built Bonsai Run. The changes they made undermined multiple tables that would already been in the system for a long time because they were all building all of that into their base engine as they went along. It just got probably pretty bloated.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
That's a cool game though. Even on there, it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't cool enough, Jason. Wasn't cool enough.
I guess I paid for it probably more than once somehow.
A lot of people did. A lot of people picked it up when it was on, Xbox and PlayStation 4.
Yeah, I had it on PS4, and then my son took over that TV with his Xbox. So then I got them all on my old iPad. So I bought them all at least twice, probably.
Yeah, and the at the time when the Bally Williams license was leaving, there was the rumor that our Pinball Arcade was talking about how they might do other the impression was Capcom games, and then I started wondering maybe they do Atari games.
I don't know why they wouldn't. If they've got the infrastructure there to do it, I mean, they just don't care, or it doesn't make any sense why they wouldn't try to milk this for whatever is left.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what their plan is, or if they think they've got the resources available to rebuild a whole new engine and then try and acquire the licenses back at a later point.
Wow, that
seems pretty ambitious. I don't. That
sometimes we have to be bold here in the world of video games.
That's real ambitious.
Well, that's all the topics I have.
Yeah, I said I didn't have a whole lot slated into video games this go round.
You got anything else, Jason?
No, I contributed to the video game section.
You did. You were a helper, and we thank you for it. Okay, well, I guess we're at the end of the show. Jason, you want to plug where people can find you out there on the social medias?
Oh, sure. Both on Facebook and on Instagram, Knapp Arcade. I don't know I think you just search for Knapp Arcade. I guess you could do, what is it, at Knapp Arcade? Is that how
I even just search for Knapp Arcade. It'll probably come up with it.
We should probably stress that it does start with a K and it's silent.
Ooh, that's a good one. KNAPP Arcade. Good call.
Yes.
Let's see. Google search Knapp Arcade. What's the first thing I get? Your Facebook page.
That's right. It's the base operation for everything.
Yep.
For those that need to reach out to our base operation, that's facebook.com/Eclectic Gamers Podcast. You can also email the show, eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com.
We're on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram as eclectic_gamers.
And we'll be back again in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Dennis.
I'm Tony.
And that's Jason. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.